Okay, so it's been a few days since I last, well, even since I last even shot a video, let alone posted one. Um, so anyway, here's our current status. I have the wing center section laid up and about 2/3 infilled. I have to infill the two wing roots, left and right wing roots. But as you can see, the wing center section fits into the cradle. I just have to, once I get it centered and whatnot, it fits in there. It's a little snug, but we can get it fully seated, and that's all you need to do. It doesn't have to be, you don't want it to be too loose. Loose is fine. Too tight is no good. But snug, I like. It's good. I'm fine with it. As you see, we have the landing gear attached. I had to do a bit of a modification on the lower rear strut. I actually ran into a bit of difficulty on the landing gear. It was my own fault. And like I often will say with the videos, I'll show you everything, whether I have a good outcome, a bad outcome, a decent outcome, whatever. And this one, we ran into a difficulty. I ended up with an error on the landing gear main strut. So they were cut identically, and the wire cores were identical in length. But I think what ended up happening is when I was setting them, I set this one in the proper location. I set the other one even to it, but at some point, I think as it was curing or as I was checking for parallel, in other words, I was looking at this aspect and lining them up in parallel. And I think what happened was this strut slipped downward, and I didn't catch it. I didn't notice that it had not been adhered to the fuselage at the same elevation. It was fine this way, it was fine this way, but it had slipped down on the fuselage. So when you look head on at these two roots, they're offset. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but take my word for it. And what that did, and actually it didn't slip down, it slipped up. I misspoke. So this strut is set lower on the fuselage. This one, somehow, as I was manipulating it, slid up on the side of the fuselage, and that left us with a short leg. And as you can see, I don't know what the camera can see or not see, but we've got an angle here that's not great. We've got, and by measuring, it's about 3/4 of an inch difference at the wingtip to the ground. We're almost 3/4 of an inch, a heavy 1/2 inch. Let's call it 5/8. We're 5/8 of an inch high on this side compared with this. And I tried a few tricks to see if I couldn't, work it a little bit, but that's a hard and fast error. The landing gear is stiff as a rock. That is not going anywhere. The wing is cemented in place. It is square to the fuselage. It is this gear, this main gear that slid up the fuselage about I think there's about 1/8 of an inch difference here, which left this 1/8 of an inch shorter, which as you travel out toward the wingtip increased to almost 5/8. So much for the best laid plans. But hey, it's a mistake. Mistakes happen. They happen to everybody, and this is just one of those things. So I'm going to complete the airplane because in every other aspect it is coming together. I mean, the engineering of the landing gear that I did was sound. The fitting is terrific, or would have been if I'd caught that slippage. I'm kicking myself, believe me, but you know, what can you do? I'm gonna finish up the airplane, and once it's hanging in flight, with everything else being square, I mean, nobody would notice the error. The only time you're going to pick that up and really catch that error is when you set the airplane down, and really if you're looking at it head on. In every other aspect, it won't be noticeable. So I'm gonna live with it. You know, worst things could happen. It's not the end of the world. So we're gonna keep going. I'm still working out the color scheme on this one. The further along I go, the more I like the black tail feathers, yellow waist, and wing stripes. Again, that's against a yellow wing. It's a, I think I'm using camel yellow for the wing because I like that darker, almost orangey yellow. That was typical of the mid-30s biplanes. And then what this is a canary yellow on the waistband and on the wing stripe. So, and then the canary yellow goes on to the nose. It goes on to the crankcase bell cover, and it goes on to the speed ring, the cowling. In some cases I've seen it with a white cowling on that, with just the bell being the crankcase bell cover being painted yellow. So I'm going back and forth between both or just the bell, and then the cowling. And in that case, when the cowling is white, the wheel fairings are white. The fuselage overall is a light gold gray, and the wing surfaces, other than the top surface of the upper wing, every other wing surface is silver, like a doped fabric, silver doped fabric. So that's the color scheme I'm leaning towards. Now, if I get this upper wing on here, we get the cabanes on, I'm looking at this thing, I'm just going to fit the cabanes and fit the upper wing and see how it looks, how much of this is affecting me. If I really can't, live with that, I'll just finish the airplane with the Dumas decals, the red version, the Smithsonian version of this airplane, and be done with it. I'm only going to put the extra time on the other paint scheme into it if after all is said and done I can live with it. I have one more opportunity to try to address this situation. Now, if you look at this, it's not much pressure. It wouldn't take much pressure to get that wing up. And so I'm thinking, if I use the cabanes, if I build that upper wing stiffly, put an extra main spar in using wood dowel, I can probably fit almost a 1/4 inch wood dowel in here, which would strengthen that wing. I could cut this cabane short and press this wing up to make that fit. Once I get the cabane inserted, we can push this up if it's just a bit shorter on this side than this side, and I can push this right wing panel upward just enough. It's possible that I could address the error a little bit, just a little bit. It's only, as you can see, just a slight deflection could make all the difference in the world. So I'm going to try that. We're gonna test that theory and see if I can do that. So that's our last ditch effort to try and save the situation here that happened. And anyway, so be forewarned of that kind of thing occurring when you're building. Also, I wanted to show you how I did fitted the top landing gear structure. It's not quite to scale. This nodule here, this blister, I kind of copied that or borrowed that from the Air Express experience project. But I think it looks, to my eye, it fits to that. The footing on this strut on the real aircraft was flatter and just a little bit, I think, not as wide as that. But to the eye, it captures the I guess the spirit of that part from the prototype aircraft. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm not going to flatten it out or anything. I'm going to leave it the way it is. It looks pretty good. Also, as you can see on the modification to the rear strut, the rear lower strut, this one. So in all of the tribulation that I was having with the fit over here, because it was lower, because there was some other issues having to do with the geometry that it shifted, I wasn't able to rotate the lower strut back far enough to get this bar to come up into the plastic fairing there. So it's attached right at the base of it. And then in order to clean that up, or at least make it look feasible, I wrapped some 1/32 balsa, just cut it in an oval shape, so it rounds out at the top here. It's with filler. It was made to look as if all one piece. As I fair that down a little bit more into this plastic fairing, we'll just reduce that to almost just a line. And I think to the eye, it will accomplish what I needed to accomplish. I think it looks okay. So that's the main landing gear, lower struts, and then main struts with the built-in, as I said, the flaw that I somehow managed to build into the right strut. Let it slip upward, actually. Let it slip up instead of maintaining the height. I keep going on about that, but it's still, like I said, it's kind of sticking in my craw a little bit. Anyway, so we're working away on the top wing. Again, the center section, once it's completely done, infilled, I mean, I'll build the outer wing panels, and then we'll test fit those, get the dihedral on those set, and I'll use again, I'll use probably 1/4-inch dowel in at least one location with a couple of locating pins, which is just be like wooden toothpick, to locate those, how the wings are inserted, get the incidence right so the wings aren't, you know, cockeyed or twisted. Make sure that they have the same dihedral, and then again stiffen that connection with that short length of I imagine I'll run it through the initial 2 or 3 wing ribs for that durability, for that strength. Anyway, once that's all fitted, we'll pull the wings off of the center section, drop the center section in, fair it into the fuselage with the filler, and that means this will be given a liberal amount of filler putty. These tabs will be removed, so this will be well rounded in here, and the same will be done on the top. So this will be all faired as it would look in reality. So on the actual aircraft, these are not hello, these are not hard edges. They're well rounded on the top of the fuselage here. So we're getting close. We're getting, you know, again, as long as the wings coming together, you get some sense of how the airplane's going to look, right? So again, lots of work yet to do. Entire upper wing has to be built. Obviously, the rear stabilizer and rudder assembly has to be put together. But I think the landing gear is okay. I mean, had I done everything properly, it's like a brick. It's just solid as a rock, and I was kind of really pleased with the outcome. You know, until I realized that there had been a situation that I didn't catch. But all in all, it's a great kit, like all the Dumas kits. It's a very large scale model of a small airplane. This is 1/10 scale. It's a bigger kit than I thought it was. So there's a lot here, a lot of wood going into this one, which, you know, neither here nor there, I guess. So you know, I'm hopeful for the outcome. I'm hopeful I can make that last minute adjustment at least to make things acceptable. I hope I can. Time will tell. And that's the current status of our airplane. I'll try and get these videos uploaded as soon as I can. And thanks for watching.